The tribal chief has returned, and Monday Night Raw will never be the same. On July 21, 2025, Roman Reigns made his shocking comeback to WWE television after a 2-month absence, and what transpired was one of the most intense, emotional, and dramatic segments in recent Raw history. When Reigns' music hit, and he walked down that ramp with purpose and intensity radiating from every step, the entire wrestling world stopped. And when he came face to face with his former special counsel Paul Heyman and the rising star Bron Breakker, the confrontation that followed was absolutely electric. This wasn't just a return. This was a reckoning. Let's take you back to understand the full magnitude of this moment, because context is everything in professional wrestling. Roman Reigns had been absent from WWE television since mid-May, following his controversial loss at WrestleMania 41, where he finally relinquished the undisputed WWE Universal Championship after a historic reign that lasted over 1,300 days. The loss was devastating not just because it ended the longest championship reign of the modern era, but because of how it happened. Reigns had been betrayed by someone he trusted, someone he had elevated, someone who owed everything to the tribal chief. The details of that betrayal had been dissected endlessly on social media, but one thing was certain. Roman Reigns left WWE that night a broken man. The 2 months that followed were filled with speculation and rumors. Where was Roman Reigns? Was he done with WWE? Was he taking time to heal physically and mentally from the grueling schedule and the emotional toll of the loss? Every week, fans wondered if this would be the night the tribal chief returned. Every premium live event came and went without his presence. The wrestling world moved on, as it always does, but there was always that underlying sense that something was missing. Monday Night Raw didn't feel complete without Roman Reigns, and everyone knew it. During those 2 months, Paul Heyman found himself in an interesting position. The special counsel, the wise man, the advocate who had stood by Roman Reigns' side for years, suddenly found himself without his tribal chief. Heyman appeared on Raw sporadically, giving interviews where he spoke about Reigns in past tense, talking about their incredible run together, the history they made, the records they shattered. But there was always something in Heyman's tone, something in his eyes that suggested he knew his relationship with Reigns was complicated at best, severed at worst. The way things ended at WrestleMania had created a fracture that might be irreparable. Then, 3 weeks ago, everything changed. Bron Breakker, fresh off his incredible victory over CM Punk that had established him as one of the top stars on Raw, was cutting a promo in the ring about his future and his championship aspirations. He talked about how he had conquered legends, how he had proven himself against the best, and how there was nobody left on Raw who could challenge him. The arrogance was palpable, but it was the kind of arrogance that felt earned after his recent performances. Breakker was on fire, and he knew it. That's when Paul Heyman's music hit. The special counsel walked out onto the stage with that trademark smile, and the crowd immediately began buzzing with anticipation. Heyman walked down the ramp, microphone in hand, and climbed into the ring with Breakker. What followed was a promo for the ages, as Heyman congratulated Breakker on his victory over Punk and then proceeded to pitch himself as Breakker's new advocate. Heyman talked about how he had taken Brock Lesnar and turned him into a legend. He talked about how he had guided Roman Reigns to the longest championship reign in modern history. And now, he claimed, he wanted to do the same for Bron Breakker. The crowd was split on this development. Some fans booed, viewing Heyman's pivot away from Roman Reigns as the ultimate betrayal. Others were intrigued by the possibilities of what Heyman and Breakker could accomplish together. Breakker himself seemed skeptical at first, questioning why he needed an advocate when he had just proven he could beat CM Punk on his own. But Heyman, with that silver tongue that has made him the greatest talker in wrestling history, slowly convinced Breakker that together they could conquer not just Raw, but all of WWE. Over the next 2 weeks, we watched as this unlikely partnership began to develop. Heyman accompanied Breakker to the ring for his matches, offering strategic advice from ringside. He cut promos on Breakker's behalf, using his unparalleled mic skills to build Breakker up as the future of WWE. And most importantly, Heyman started positioning Breakker for a championship opportunity, pulling the strings behind the scenes to get his new client into the title picture. The WWE Universe watched this unfold with mixed emotions, but one question was on everyone's mind. What would happen when Roman Reigns eventually returned? That question was answered on July 21st, 2025, in the most dramatic way possible. The show had started as it typically did, with various matches and segments designed to advance ongoing storylines. About an hour into the broadcast, Paul Heyman and Bron Breakker made their way to the ring for a scheduled promo segment. Heyman had been hyping this appearance all week on social media, promising that they would make a major announcement about Breakker's championship aspirations and his path to the title. The crowd was hot, eager to hear what Heyman had to say. Heyman stood in the center of the ring with Breakker beside him, and he began his promo in typical fashion, building up his client and talking about the incredible future that lay ahead. He spoke about how Bron Breakker represented everything that WWE needed in a champion: youth, power, athleticism, charisma, and most importantly, the wisdom to align himself with Paul Heyman. The crowd was eating it up, some cheering, some booing, everyone engaged. Heyman was working his magic, and you could feel the energy building toward whatever announcement was coming. Then it happened. The arena went dark. Completely dark. The kind of darkness that immediately tells you something major is about to occur. The crowd's noise level increased exponentially, a mixture of confusion, excitement, and anticipation. For a few seconds, there was nothing but darkness and the sound of thousands of people wondering what was happening. Then, breaking through the silence like thunder, came the unmistakable opening notes of Roman Reigns' entrance music. The building absolutely exploded. People were on their feet, screaming, some in shock, some in pure excitement. The tribal chief was here. The lights came back up, and there he was, standing at the top of the ramp. Roman Reigns looked different than when we had last seen him 2 months ago. There was something harder in his eyes, something more dangerous in his demeanor. He wasn't wearing his typical entrance gear. No elaborate vest. No championship belt. Just simple black tactical pants and a black sleeveless shirt that showed off his powerful physique. This wasn't Roman Reigns coming back for a celebration or a feel-good moment. This was Roman Reigns coming back for vengeance. In the ring, the reactions were telling. Bron Breakker's expression was one of interest mixed with wariness. He had never shared a ring with Roman Reigns before, never faced the tribal chief, and you could see him calculating what this meant for him and his newfound partnership with Heyman. But it was Paul Heyman's reaction that was most fascinating. The color drained from his face. His usual confident smile disappeared completely, replaced by an expression that can only be described as pure fear mixed with guilt. Heyman knew why Reigns was here, and he knew this confrontation was going to be brutal. Reigns started walking down the ramp slowly, deliberately, never taking his eyes off the ring. There was no pyro, no theatrics, no playing to the crowd. This was all business. Every step carried weight and purpose. The crowd was deafening, chanting Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, so loudly that it was almost overwhelming. As Reigns got closer to the ring, you could see Heyman backing up slightly, positioning himself behind Breakker, using the younger superstar as a human shield. That cowardice didn't go unnoticed by anyone watching. Reigns reached the ring steps and paused, looking up at Heyman and Breakker. The tension was incredible. You could cut it with a knife. Slowly, Reigns climbed the steps and stepped through the ropes with that trademark fluidity that makes him one of the most physically imposing performers in WWE history. He stood in the ring now, just feet away from Heyman and Breakker, and the silence that fell over the arena was eerie. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen next. Would Reigns attack immediately? Would he grab a microphone and cut a promo first? The anticipation was almost unbearable. Reigns raised his hand, and a production assistant immediately ran to ringside with a microphone, sliding it into the ring. Reigns picked it up slowly, never breaking eye contact with Heyman. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, controlled, but filled with an intensity that was almost frightening. Paul, Reigns said, and that single word carried more emotion than entire promos from other wrestlers. We need to talk. The crowd erupted again, sensing that something monumental was about to unfold. Heyman's hands were shaking as he slowly raised his own microphone to respond. Before Heyman could speak, Reigns continued. 2 months. 2 months I've been gone from this ring, and you couldn't wait even 2 weeks before you started moving on, before you started selling your services to the highest bidder, before you started pretending like everything we built together meant nothing. The accusation hung in the air, and Heyman's expression was one of a man who knew he was guilty but was desperately searching for a way to explain, to justify, to survive. Reigns took a step closer, and Heyman instinctively took a step back, bumping into Breakker. Heyman finally found his voice, and when he spoke, you could hear the desperation mixed with his usual eloquence. Roman, my tribal chief, please let me explain. You have to understand, you left. You disappeared. I didn't know if you were ever coming back. I have a family to support. I have bills to pay. I'm a businessman, and I had to make business decisions. It wasn't personal. It was never personal. The justification sounded weak even to Heyman's own ears, and you could see him realize it mid-sentence. The crowd booed his explanation, not buying any of it. Reigns laughed, but there was no humor in it. It was a cold, bitter laugh that sent chills down the spine of everyone watching. It wasn't personal. Reigns repeated, his voice rising slightly. We stood together for years, Paul. Years. I made you relevant again. I made you more than just Brock Lesnar's mouthpiece. I elevated you to special counsel of the tribal chief. We made history together. 1,300 days. The longest championship reign of the modern era. And the second I'm gone, the second I step away to deal with what happened at WrestleMania, you replace me like I meant nothing. The emotion in Reigns' voice was palpable now. This wasn't just about business or storylines. This felt real. This felt personal. Heyman was visibly shaking, tears forming in his eyes, and you couldn't tell if they were genuine or if the master manipulator was working everyone. Roman, please, Heyman pleaded. You're my tribal chief. You'll always be my tribal chief. This thing with Bron, it's just temporary. It's just business. You and me, we're family. We're blood. The bloodline is forever. That's when Bron Breakker finally spoke up, clearly tired of being talked around and about. Excuse me, Breakker said, his voice cutting through the tension. I'm standing right here. Roman Reigns, I respect what you've accomplished. I respect the legacy you built. But this is 2025, not 2020. Things have changed. I've changed this business. I beat CM Punk. I've beaten everyone put in front of me. And yeah, Paul Heyman is my advocate now. He chose me because he sees what everyone else sees. I'm the future. You're the past. The crowd gasped at Breakker's boldness, and you could see Roman Reigns' jaw clench. The tribal chief slowly turned his full attention to Bron Breakker, and the look he gave the younger superstar was absolutely chilling. You think you're the future? Reigns asked quietly, dangerously. You think beating CM Punk makes you somebody? Boy, I've been the guy that runs this company for 4 years. I've beaten legends you've only watched on YouTube videos. Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Edge, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins twice, Sami Zayn, and more names than you can count. So before you stand there and tell me I'm the past, you better make damn sure you're ready to back up those words. Breakker didn't back down. To his credit, he stood his ground, getting right in Reigns' face. The two men were nose to nose now, and the intensity was off the charts. I'm not afraid of you, Roman, Breakker said firmly. I'm not intimidated by your reputation or your legacy. This is my time now. This is my ring. This is my show. And if you have a problem with that, we can settle it right here, right now. The crowd erupted at the challenge, chanting, "Let them fight. Let them fight." The two most dominant forces in WWE were seconds away from exploding. But before anything physical could happen, Paul Heyman inserted himself between them, desperately trying to de-escalate the situation. Gentlemen, please. Heyman shouted, his voice cracking with emotion and fear. There's no need for violence. We can talk about this. We can work this out. Roman, you're my tribal chief. Bron, you're my client. We can all coexist. We can all benefit from working together. Think about it. The tribal chief and the future of WWE, united with Paul Heyman as the architect. We would be unstoppable. Reigns slowly turned his attention back to Heyman, and the look of disgust on his face was unmistakable. You really think I would ever work with you again after what you've done? Reigns asked. You really think I would stand side by side with the man who betrayed me the second I walked away? Paul, I trusted you with everything. I made you family. And you threw it away for him. Reigns gestured dismissively toward Breakker. You made your choice, Paul. You chose your next meal ticket over loyalty. You chose money over family. And now you have to live with that choice. The finality in Reigns' voice was crushing, and you could see Heyman's heart breaking in real time. Whether it was real emotion or the greatest acting performance of his career, it was compelling television. Tears were streaming down Heyman's face now as he dropped to his knees in front of Reigns. Please, Roman, Heyman begged. Please don't do this. Don't throw away everything we built. I made a mistake. I was wrong. I panicked when you left. But I can fix this. Just give me a chance to fix this. You're my tribal chief. You'll always be my tribal chief. Reigns looked down at Heyman kneeling before him, and for just a moment, you could see a flicker of something in his eyes. Pain? Regret? Memories of better times? But then his expression hardened again, and he shook his head slowly. Get up, Paul, Reigns said quietly. Get up and stand with your new tribal chief. Stand with the man you chose over me. Because you and I, we're done. The partnership is over. The special counsel is fired. And if I ever see you in my way again, if you ever cross me again, I won't be this understanding. Heyman slowly rose to his feet, devastated, and backed away from Reigns toward Breakker. The symbolic gesture was clear. He had chosen his side, or rather, Reigns had chosen it for him. Breakker put a protective hand on Heyman's shoulder, a gesture that seemed to say that Heyman was under his protection now. That simple action seemed to infuriate Reigns even more. You think you can protect him? Reigns asked Breakker, his voice rising. You think you're man enough to stand between me and what I want? Boy, you have no idea who you're dealing with. Breakker stepped forward, accepting the challenge. Why don't you show me then? Breakker said defiantly. You want to prove you're still the top guy? You want to prove that you're not washed up and past your prime? Then do something about it. Stop talking and do something. The crowd was at a fever pitch now, sensing that this was about to turn physical. Security guards started positioning themselves around ringside, ready to intervene if necessary. The referees and backstage officials were watching from the gorilla position, prepared to rush out at a moment's notice. Roman Reigns and Bron Breakker stood face to face, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Neither man was backing down. Neither man was showing any fear. This was a collision course between two generations, two eras, two men who both believed they were the rightest guy in the room. Reigns slowly started removing his shirt, a clear sign that he was ready to fight. Breakker did the same, shedding his jacket and rolling his shoulders, preparing for war. Paul Heyman was frantically trying to calm the situation, but neither man was listening to him anymore. Just as it seemed like they were about to come to blows, Triple H's music hit. The chief content officer of WWE walked out onto the stage with a microphone, flanked by several officials and security personnel. Gentlemen, Triple H shouted, his voice carrying authority. That's enough. This is not how we do business around here anymore. You want to fight? You want to tear each other apart? Fine. But you're going to do it the right way. Next week on Raw, it's going to be Roman Reigns versus Bron Breakker. And Paul Heyman, you're banned from ringside. This is between these two men, and we're going to settle it once and for all. The announcement sent the crowd into absolute pandemonium. Roman Reigns versus Bron Breakker. The tribal chief against the future. The match everyone wanted to see was now official for next week's Raw. Reigns slowly nodded, accepting the match, never taking his eyes off Breakker. Breakker smirked and nodded as well, confidence radiating from every pore. Heyman looked devastated, realizing that he had lost control of the situation completely and would be unable to interfere or influence the outcome of the match. Reigns backed toward the ropes, maintaining eye contact with both Breakker and Heyman. As he prepared to exit the ring, he raised his finger, pointing first at Breakker and then at Heyman, a gesture that clearly said this isn't over. Then Reigns rolled out of the ring and started walking up the ramp. The crowd was chanting his name, fully behind the returning tribal chief. As Reigns reached the top of the ramp, he turned back one more time to look at the ring, at Breakker standing there with Heyman beside him, and the intensity of his stare sent a clear message. Next week, there would be a reckoning. Back in the ring, Bron Breakker grabbed a microphone and addressed the crowd and Roman Reigns. "Roman," Breakker shouted, causing Reigns to stop and turn around on the stage. "I'm not scared of you. I'm not intimidated by your legacy or your reputation. Next week, I'm going to do what nobody else has been able to do. I'm going to prove that the old era is dead and my era has begun. You're looking at the man who's going to end the tribal chief once and for all."